Hello friends, I'm Narendra Verma once again before you. As you know very well, in business studies for class 12, we have been dealing with the chapter number 6, that is staffing, right? And so far we have covered a lot of topics. Last time we discussed the entire process of recruitment. That was one of the aspects or components of staffing, right? Now today we are going to talk about the another important aspect of staffing, that is selection. Okay, already I have explained you the definition of selection. One more time I would like to repeat it for you. Okay, and I would like to inform you as well one more thing. Today what we are going to discuss, the selection process and its comparison with recruitment. Understood? So let's start. Selection is the second step of staffing process, right? Here I have already discussed that with you. Okay, and one more thing, let me tell you, if we talk about its definition, then selection is the process of identifying and choosing the best person out of a number of prospective candidates for a job. Right? Through recruitment, a pool of qualified candidate is created, and out of that pool, the best person for the job is selected under this selection process. Understood the point? Okay. At the time of recruitment, we discussed that recruitment is considered a positive process because it invites the application. But selection is considered a negative process. Why? Because it eliminates the persons. Okay, at every stage of selection, let me tell you, selection is having various stages, or we can name them various steps of selection process. Okay, so at every stage what happens, the candidate with lesser qualification is rejected, okay, and the candidate who is having more qualification or who is more suitable for the job is selected for the next stage. Okay, so that process goes on. That starts from the very first stage of selection process, that is screening, and it ends with the choosing of the best person. Okay, so it goes on till then, right? So selection is a kind of process in which at every step the persons are rejected. That is why it is considered a negative process by the people. Understood the point? Okay. Now let's have discussion about its steps, or we can define it at large level: procedure of selection, selection procedure, selection process, or steps of selection. Alright, so here are the steps of selection. There are 8 steps, okay, in your syllabus. Fine. Very first step is preliminary screening, second is selection test, third is employment interview, fourth reference and background checks, and then selection decision, and then medical examination, then job offer, and at last contract of employment. Like I explained you that at every stage the lesser qualified candidate is rejected and more qualified candidate is forwarded, okay, or selected for the next round. Understood? Okay, and this process starts from here and it goes up to this level. Okay, now these steps need to be followed in the same sequence. We cannot change the sequence, okay, because when one stage is over, only then the second stage is activated or started. Understood the point? So to remember all these in the same sequence, I have prepared a code, okay, so that you may not forget it. Very easy kind of code I have prepared. If you remember that code, then you can remember all these points in the same sequence. So without wasting much time, I would like to write down the code here. So here is the code. Yes, it is the unique one, but very carefully I have picked the initial letters or similar to initial letters so that you can remember the entire step. Okay, you'll have to imagine that there is an employee who is selected in preliminary screening, okay, and he refers some selected medical job contract, okay. Imagine a kind of situation, unusual one, but if you remember this unusual situation, you can remember the all steps of selection by this. Understood the point? How? I just show you. This preliminary stands for preliminary screening, right? And this selected stands for selection test. This employee stands for employment interview. This refer stands for reference and background checks. Okay, and this selected stands for selection decision. This medical stands for medical examination, and this job stands for job offer, and this contract stands for contract of employment. Okay, so preliminary selected employee, refer selected medical job, contract. Alright. Now, let's understand these steps one by one. So, first step is preliminary screening. What is screening? Just checking. Okay, not getting into much detail, but just having the primary checking. Okay, so it is concerned about that only. This is the very first stage of the selection process, and here as well the candidates are rejected. How? Whenever an organization exercises the recruitment process, through recruitment they have got the application of the qualified candidates. Now, at the time of recruitment, they must have decided what is the job profile and what job specification they need. Okay, they start matching those job profile and job specification with the qualification of the candidates, right? Okay, which they have mentioned in the application form submitted by them, right? So when the proper match is there, okay, then a candidate is called for the first round interview, which is known as preliminary interview. Okay, but if he or she is lacking somewhere, then he or she is rejected immediately. How? I would like to give you an example for that. Okay, say for example that in one organization there is a post of assistant manager in marketing department. Okay, and for that the advertisement source of recruitment was exercised, and in that it was clearly mentioned the candidate must have 3 years experience in the similar field. Okay, as well as he must be graduate. Fine. So many people applied for that. Now one candidate is there who is graduate, but he is not having any experience in marketing field. Okay, so at the time of preliminary screening, his form will be rejected. Why? Because in the advertisement it was clearly mentioned that 3 years experience is must. It is mandatory. So when it is mandatory, then definitely the candidate is supposed to have that. If in the absence of that, still he is applying, his form is going to be rejected. And there can be some other reasons why the forms are rejected. And sometimes the reasons are not given even in the application form, even then the form is rejected due to some internal causes. Okay, so one example I give you. Okay, one more example can be there. Sometimes the candidate age creates problem, sometimes his qualification creates problem, his documents creates problem. Okay, so wherever they find any kind of discrepancy, okay, they just declare a candidate unfit for the post, okay, and they reject the candidates, right? And the candidates who possess all the qualifications and specifications they demand, they are forwarded, means they are called for the preliminary interview. Okay, and the people who have been rejected, how they are communicated? They are communicated by uploading their names on the website of the organization, or the organization can personally mail them, okay, or send them text messages or give them phone calls, etc. Okay, so in these ways, rejected candidates are informed about their rejection. Okay, and other people who have been selected, they may be communicated through phone, mails, etc. and they are called for the interview. Fine. So this is the very first stage, and this stage as well, few people were rejected. Understood the point? Now let's move on to second step. So the second step is selection test, right? As many candidates are selected in the first stage, means preliminary interview, they are asked to appear for selection test. Some kind of selection test are arranged by the organization or conducted by the organization at mass level so that the candidates can appear for them. These tests are conducted to know more about the candidates. Okay, his certain characteristics need to be known, like his intelligence, personality, okay, and his aptitude, interest, etc. Fine. Different kind of tests are designed to check different characteristic of a candidate. Okay, you must have seen in various organizations, especially in the government organization, such kind of tests are arranged. Written tests are arranged in which you find aptitude is also asked, okay, general awareness is also asked, okay, and mental ability is also asked. Some questions are there related to your communication skills as well. Some questions are there to know about your interests, etc. Fine. So these kind of selection tests are conducted. Okay, let me give you one example here. Say for example, through recruitment process, we got 500 applications for a single post, right? So at this stage, we rejected some of them, right? And after doing that, we got only 150 applicants. Okay, so we did that in first round. Now, in this selection test, these people will be called. Okay, they will appear for these tests. Okay, and later on in the next step, we will discuss as many candidates pass these tests, they will be forwarded to this stage. Understood? So, selection tests are kind of mechanism to know more about the employee. These can be written, oral, or some kind of exercise can be designed. Okay, for the post of clerk, typing test is conducted. Okay, so this is also a kind of selection test. Somewhere psychological tests are conducted. Okay, so we will have detailed discussion about these types of selection tests in the separate video. Okay, I'll make a separate video after this video only for the explanation on types of selection test. Okay, right now I'm just informing you that some kind of test, written, oral or exercise form are conducted by the organization to know certain characteristics of the candidate. Okay, and the candidates selected in the first round need to appear in this, and as many are selected or are qualified in this round, they are forwarded for the next round. So this is also a step of eliminating the unqualified candidate. Okay. So it is all about this step. Now let's move on to another step. So the next stage is employment interview, right? So like I told you, as many are selected after tests. Say for example, tests were conducted, okay, and only 75 applicants qualified that selection test, right? Okay, so these 75 applicants will be called for the interview. These are also known as personal interview. Okay, an employment interview is what? A kind of in-depth conversation between interviewer and interviewee, and this is conducted to evaluate the suitability of the candidate for the post. Okay, the interviewers need to know whether the candidate is qualified for the post or not, right? Because what happened in preliminary interview, okay, basic questions are asked and experts do not ask them. Maybe possible in preliminary interview, what happened, the receptionist and the front office person inquired about the few details, right? So that is not considered a kind of full-fledged interview. Okay, a full-fledged interview is there at this point. This is also known as personal interview. So let's understand the meaning of interview. Okay, see, this term is made by two terms, inter plus view. Okay, view means thoughts, concept, okay, or thinking of a person. Okay, inter means just to get connected. So interview is a kind of process to get connected through the thinking of a person. Okay, and it has two parties. one interviewer and another interviewee. If I am taking your interview, then I will be known as interviewer. But if I am appearing for an interview, then I will be known as interviewee. Right? Okay. So an interview is in-depth conversation between interviewer and interviewee to evaluate the suitability for the particular post of the candidate. Understood the point? Okay. One more thing. These can be more than one as well. Sometimes it is known as panel interview. Okay. The people more than one are sitting there, 3 or 4. Okay. They are having this specific job. One is only busy in asking question. Another is just observing your moves, gestures, confidence level. Okay. The way of reacting, your expressions, etc. Another is just noticing your psychology. Okay. And another may be expert in another field. Fine. They may ask you different kind of questions related to the post, related to the organization, related to the field in which you are expert. Okay. They may ask you about your previous employment if you have already worked somewhere. They may ask about your details, means introduce yourself, etc. They may ask about your hobbies, interests. Fine. They just want to know your thinking concept, what you think, what in actual you are, because in application form maybe possible a person can depict lot of lies. Okay. And in selection test also a person can pass, right? But at the time of interview it is very much difficult to become over smart. Okay. Because the experts are sitting there and they are master in their field. If you are trying to act over smart, they will catch you and the unsuitable candidate will not be admitted to the organization. Okay, so this is also a process to eliminate the unqualified candidates. Okay, or less suitable candidates, we better say. One more thing, as the interview is a kind of chance for the interviewer to seek information from the interview. An interviewee is supposed to provide the answer for the same. Okay, similarly, interviewee is also getting a chance to this interview process so that he may inquire about his salary, okay, working conditions, okay, and the profile of the company, etc. He may also inquire few things. Alright, so this is a kind of conversation. Fine. So this is a kind of main point of selection, right? And people prepare a lot for this. Okay, maybe possible in future you are going to appear for certain kind of interview. Alright, so this is very much important for you. Understood the point? Now let's move on to another stage of selection. So next stage is reference and background checks. As many candidates are selected in the interview process, their reference and backgrounds are checked. Okay, so let's continue this. Say for example that out of these 75 applicants under this employment interview process, only 15 were selected. Okay, now these 15 will face this process. And for this process, what a candidate is supposed to do? A candidate is supposed to provide the references for the verification, because maybe possible a candidate is providing the information that is fake. So just to verify, a candidate is supposed to give the names of few people. Okay, these people may be his previous employers, okay, or his known persons who are having high profile in the society, okay, or these may be teachers, professors of university. Understood? So the name should be given of such people who are reliable, who are also not telling a lie like a candidate. Understood the point? Okay, so organization asks the candidates for some references. Okay, so when the candidate provides names, addresses, contact numbers, email IDs, etc. of some references known to him, who can produce good information about him, who can give true picture about the candidate, okay, then the organization has contacts with these people, okay, and then they verify all the information. They may ask some questions to these references related to the candidate, okay, his character, his behavior, his work knowledge, etc. Okay, and in this process also a few candidates are rejected, okay, because they are not able to produce the good references. One point, if they produce good references, the people whose reference have been given, they did not give the positive information about those people, okay, or the organization itself thought that the person is not having the good character, okay, after having the conversation with some of the people about him. Understood? So in big organizations or in government organization, this process is run through the police verification or some other sources through the government agencies, right? But in the small organization or in the private organization, this process is done on their own basis, okay, by personally contacting the reference people, okay. Understood the point? So in this also, like I told you, the candidate most suitable are selected and the candidate with lesser suitability are rejected, okay. So now let's move on to next stage.